Choose guys coming through.
Hey, Jake. How are you?
Jake Paul, known for his antics both in and out of the ring, found himself in an awkward situation last night that quickly became the talk of Music Paris. The social media influencer turned boxer made sure all eyes were on him attending a high-profile event in the heart of the city music. However, things took an unexpected turn that had even Mike Tyson comment on his behavior. This whole thing about I get drinking being bad for you if you're doing on a consistent basis. But I was sober for like 2 months in camp working my balls off. Oh no, it all began with Jake Paul's enthusiastic appearance at La Vue, one of Paris's most exclusive restaurants. Fresh off a victorious night for USA basketball at the Paris Olympics, the mood was celebratory, and Paul was seen talking with some of the biggest names in sports. He was dressed to impress, flashing his signature smile and confidence, making it clear that he was there to enjoy the night to the fullest. Be careful, nice to meet you, man. But as the night wore on, Jake's fun seemed to get the best of him. People who saw him reported that Paul's demeanor began to shift quite noticeably. And what started as an energetic celebration soon turned into something much more chaotic. Footage captured by onlookers shows Jake Paul stumbling out of the restaurant, barely able to maintain his balance. It was clear that Paul had indulged in a bit too much of the good life. Jake, how are you? Jake, hey my brother, be careful, my brother, be careful. The video, which quickly went viral, shows Paul needing the assistance of his security team as he wobbled his way to the exit. His usual swagger was nowhere to be seen. Instead, he moved with the unsteady steps of someone who had perhaps overestimated his limits. As Paul staggered down the steps, one couldn't help but be reminded of a wet Labrador struggling to find its footing after a swim, an image that would soon become a headline sensation. Hey right brother, be careful brother, be careful, nice to meet you, man. As the clip spread across social media, the internet had a field day, but the most unexpected reaction came from none other than Mike Tyson. The boxing icon didn't hold back in a video response. Tyson was seen laughing, shaking his head in disbelief. He walks like a wet Labrador, Tyson said. What was he thinking? You don't go to Paris to party like that, man. Get it together. Jake, I have to learn the harsh way or the easy way. But I'm going to tell you as a friend what I think you should do. But at the end of the day, bro, Tyson's mockery of Paul didn't stop there. He went on to question Jake's judgment and how this incident might affect his boxing career. You can't be out here getting drunk and wobbling like that, not when you're trying to be a serious fighter. This is what happens when you start believing your own hype. I wouldn't do it if I had been inactive, but I literally fought 4 times in 11 months. The jab from Tyson stung even more, considering Jake Paul's recent aspirations to compete in the 2028 Los Angeles Olympic Games. Paul had previously expressed his disappointment with the performance of the U.S. boxing team at the Paris Olympics and hint that he could do better. But with this latest episode, many began to question whether Paul was truly cut out for the Olympic stage. I don't know if he's in his prime. He's fat, he should been lean and mean. He's fat and funky. As if the night couldn't get any more dramatic. Just minutes after Paul's wobbly exit, Lebron James was seen leaving the same restaurant. Unlike Paul, Lebron was calm and composed, the picture of composure as he waved to fans and smoothly entered his car. The difference couldn't have been more striking. Lebron, the seasoned athlete, handling the evening with grace, while Paul, the brash newcomer, seemed to have lost control. Careful, nice to meet you. Music Man talks spread that Lebron and his team were aware of Paul's state and had quietly distanced themselves from him during the night. Some speculated that Lebron's legendary status in the world of sports made him cautious about associating with the unpredictable Paul. Others wondered if Lebron had subtly intervened to ensure that Paul was escorted out before any further embarrassment occurred. Oh no, you shouldn't do that, Jake, as he has a bottle of liquor coming out. You should not do that right now. But this is going to be very bad in the days following. Paul's camp tried to downplay the incident with his representative, stating that Jake was simply enjoying a night out with friends and celebrated a bit too much. As for Tyson, he ended his critique with a piece of advice that many hope Jake Paul will take to heart. Stay focused, man, you've got talent, but this game will eat you alive if you don't respect it. You want to be a champion, start acting like Music One. But this is not the first Jake has been seen overly drinking. This was further complemented by his brother, Logan Paul, who has even showed concern on Jake's habits. If we didn't stay in camp, I probably would have been drinking too much alcohol. Shout out Michael Rubin. Jake Paul viciously stopped Mike Perry on Saturday night, setting up yet another super fight and solidifying his reputation as one of the most talked about names in combat combat sports, but while the victory was sweet, it was the events leading up to the fight that caused quite a stir, particularly among those closest to him, including his brother Logan Paul Savage. I knew Mike Perry would give Jake a hard time, but I also was 100% confident that Jake was going to pick him up. Jake, now with a 10-1 record in the sport, decided to take an unusual detour just 2 weeks before the fight. Instead of remaining focused on his training camp in Puerto Rico, he jetted off to New York to attend the Michael Rubin White Party, a star-studded affair that attracted celebrities like Kim Kardashian, Drake, and Leonardo DiCaprio. I got how as his friend, could you let it go to the white party and drink? It's like, bro, oh no, you told me. He told me, he was like, bro, do not drink, I'm going to be disappointed. All my coaches were like, don't drink, we be disappointed. The event, held in a luxurious New York suburb, was known for its glamour and flowing with drinks for someone in the final stages of preparation for a high-stakes fight. Jake's decision to attend the party raised more than a few eyebrows. Fans and observers were worried when photos surfaced of Jake Paul mingling with the likes of Machine Gun Kelly and other A-listers at the music party. The timing seemed off, and the fact that Jake was just weeks away from facing Mike Perry in the ring only added to the surprise. Social media was filled with speculation, with many wondering why a professional athlete would risk disrupting his training regimen so close to fight night. Jake initially tried to downplay the situation, taking to social media to insist that he wasn't drinking during the event. However, the truth eventually came out during a post-fight episode of his podcast, BS with Jake Paul, where he admitted to indulging more than he had let on. I didn't know how I got home, Jake confessed, revealing that the night had indeed been a heavy one. Contrary to his earlier claims that decision to drink at the white party was more cooked than me, I don't even know how I got home. This admission didn't sit well with his older brother, Logan Paul, who was genuinely concerned about Jake's decision to attend the party so close to the fight. On the podcast, Logan didn't hold back his feelings, questioning Jake's judgment. Why did you do that? Logan asked, clearly confused by his brother's choice. Jake, however, brushed off the concern with a casual, why not? Logan, not satisfied with that response, pressed further. He reminded Jake of the stakes involved, particularly the potential ramifications of losing the fight against Perry, because you have a massive fight 2 weeks later. And if you lose that fight, you don't get to fight Mike Tyson. Logan pointed out, massive fight 2 weeks later. And if you lose that fight, you don't get to fight I don't lose unless it's Tommy Fury. The mention of a possible showdown with Tyson showed just how much was on the line for Jake, making his decision to party even more questionable. Despite Logan's concerns, Jake remained unfazed. He jokingly responded that he wasn't worried because he doesn't lose, but then took a more serious tone to explain his reasoning. Jake pointed to his rigorous schedule over the past year, during which he had already fought 3 times, defeating Nate Diaz under August and Ryan Borland. In his view, this track record justified a night off even during the critical final weeks of his training camp. I just know my ability, Jake said confidently. He went on to address the common belief that drinking is detrimental to an athlete's performance, particularly in a sport as demanding as boxing. But I'm coming for you, Tommy. But I just know my ability, and also there's this whole thing about I get drinking being bad for you if you're doing on a consistent basis. But I was sober for also there's this whole thing about drinking being bad for you, which I get if you're doing it on a consistent basis. But I was sober for 2 months in camp, working my butt off, and then 1 day of liver dehydration isn't going to take away my skill, said. Jake's words reflect the confidence, or perhaps overconfidence, that has become his trademark. He clearly believes that his talent and work ethic are enough to carry him through any challenge, even if he occasionally steps outside the bounds of what might be considered conventional wisdom for a professional athlete. Over